director, I choose that material, figure out, okay, how can I pull this off? You know, what do I want to do with the material? Is it a horror movie? Is it an action movie? Whatever it is. And it's like, how do I make it like coherent from the ground up? And again, it's the script and then right into the casting. It's like the different stages for me of making a movie. And once you get that casting stage, it's like all important because that's like, you live or die there. You're hoping this cast you get is going to like bring more to it than what's in the script.
Right.
And so
which
casting,
is what you said this morning.
Exactly.
When there's like that one sentence that is written that it could be anything, and then the actor does something and it changes everything.
Yeah, and if you're not aware,
Yeah.
if you're not open to it, you're going to miss those moments.
Yeah.
So I think as a director, when I first started out, I thought I had to be a dictator. And in a way you are, you're a benevolent dictator. But I was like, okay, tell the actor, you do this, you pick this up, you do this, then you look and, you know, and they'd look at me like, okay, you want me to do it exactly like that? And then they would do it, I go, well, that looks ridiculous. Well, I did exactly what. So I learned as a director was getting the hell out of the way and setting the stage. You know, there's the material, there's the actors, you got the blocking in mind, you got a plan, but get stepping back a little bit and being there when the actors need that direction. But also when they get it and they got it, you got to know that it's, and you need to know what to say and when to step back. So acting, you know, the actors are very, very important. And then of course, getting it all together and walking out into the middle of that set, whether it's 2 actors or 100 or 1,000 crew or 2, it doesn't matter. Everyone's looking at you as, okay, the voice of like, what's this movie? And if you don't have a plan, everybody picks up on it pretty quick. Even if you think you're disguising and you're a great actor, they can go, he doesn't quite know what he wants here. Makes everybody else uncomfortable. So you got to have that plan. It can be wrong, but you got to have a point of view, and they want to, you know, they'll feed on that. And confrontation's fine. I used to go, well, an actor doesn't want to say the line. No, say the line. And I go, well, why don't you want to say it? 9 times out of 10, they kind of got it right, you know, because they're living the character that you can't live. So from a directing standpoint, it's like getting all those pieces together that I feel like are the ones necessary, and then knowing when to get in the middle and when to step back. And it's something you learn with experience. You know, it's a big deal. And then of course, you know, not only that is you got to, once you shoot it, you got to get it together. You got to post it, the sound, everything is all the way down the line so important. The music, and then probably for me, one of the hardest things to learn, which you've got to learn as a director, is at the end, what to cut out and what to leave in. It's a great shot. It took 3 hours to get, but your movie's dead. You lose it. Again, you got one shot at it. People are going to sit down and then they're going to get up and leave. And so you've got to like divorce yourself from all the stuff you loved, and the movie comes out and tells you what it needs to be, and you need to trim it down. And it's tough. And every movie I do, God, I gotta cut 20 minutes out? Hell, that's 2-3 days. I mean, and I always think, well, next time I'm gonna shoot that movie and it's gonna be exactly to the thing. And it never is, because I love every aspect of it. I love the actors and the scenes. I'm like, hey, yeah, let's make that better. Let's do that, you know, and I always end up cutting 20 minutes out, and it's so painful. I got like 20 minutes of great stuff that doesn't belong in that movie.
Same question to you.
Yeah, so I would agree. Casting is great. If you can get that right at the beginning, you can save yourself a lot of work. And it's not necessarily about wanting an actor that is just, I'm an empty vessel, fill me up director with all your genius. You want an actor who is doing their homework, who's studying the part, who thinks they have an idea of how it should be played, and you can have that conversation. You want that from all your crew, from the director of photography, from everyone. You want people who are bringing their own input to it, not just asking for directions from you. But if you look at the fulcrum of, you know, pre-production, production, and post-production, production, the part on the set, is the small part. It's the shortest part anyway, in terms of the timeline. Pre-production, where you figure out your coverage and how you want to shoot it, and I guarantee if we give everybody in this room the exact same 5-minute script, we'll have 20 different movies at the end in terms of how you shoot it, who you would cast for it, how you cut it, etc. So you need to sort of plan that out. That's what he was talking about, feeling like you have a point of view, you know what you're doing. I also would recommend in that period to rehearse, especially unless you have really top-notch actors. You know, amateur actors or even mid-level actors, benefit from rehearsing. And even great actors, Sidney Lumet had in his contract that he would always have 6 weeks of rehearsal. And he did that with Paul Newman on The Verdict, and it's an awesome movie, but Paul Newman said that's because we rehearsed it, and I got to figure out who this character was.
Coppola does the same thing.
Yeah, and you know, and shooting then is like this, you're living in the moment, you know, you're hoping that you can, everything, you know, you're trying to catch lightning in a bottle, and you're hoping the performance, if you can help tweak that, or if someone invents a shot, let's forget what I had on my shot list, let's go with that instead, that's better. And then I would, you know, these guys did a panel just before this on post, you know, when Orson Welles, as a college professor, I always quote, you know, famous directors, but anyway, said that editing is the key aspect for him. That is where you make the movie. That you're pulling in all these raw materials, and now there it all is. And usually when you go and see dailies, you're always depressed. I mean, you're always like, oh, it's not quite what I wanted.
We missed it.
It was close, but and then you start to cut it, and you cut things. And I actually have gotten to the point where I like to cut things, even though I originally was like, oh, that's our dolly shot. We spent so long, and then it doesn't work, and you cut it. But when you see that length, overall running time shorten, I always feel like, okay, but you know, this is getting better, you know. And you invert scenes. I've done that many times. You go, you know, let's just flip these two scenes in order, and you go. Everyone in the room looks at each other and goes, "What do we think?" Yes, it's genius, you know. And then then your movie's made. So that's sort of the whole range of the director's job, I guess.
It's a good segue when you bring up Orson Welles. We also talked about shot lists. How important is it for you to do shot lists, or do you do more freeform and try to let the cinematographer do more, or do you do fuller shot lists? How strict are you with your cinematographer?
So before I did full-time acting and directing in movies, I was a professional dancer and I did off-Broadway shows. And because of that, I tend to be quite anal because everything has to be choreographed from beginning to end at the timing of when they grab the bottle. But as I go making more things, especially making TV shows and web series, I learn to let go of things. So I prepare myself like there's no tomorrow, in both ends, as an actor and as a director. I want to be ready for anything. As an actor, I want to be ready. If the director wants anything, I'll do it. As a director, I want to be able to do that for my actors. If they need any sort of help, I want to be able to help them. This is maybe because I am an actor, director, that I do that. But I find having a shot list very helpful because it makes me feel like we have something very specific to do. And only once we have done some of these things from the list can I say, well, yeah, this actually we don't need. But if I don't have that list, it's very easy to think, yeah, we have everything, right? We have everything? Yeah, we have it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, shit,
we don't have everything.
We don't have everything.
Have you ever wanted to be an actor? At Cleveland Academy of Film Acting, anyone can get on the path to a new exciting film career. If you're new to acting, an experienced pro, or somewhere in between, Cleveland Academy is for you. We help place our students in local film projects. Classes are on Wednesday night from 8 to 10 p.m., and your first class is absolutely free. Call 216-323-2393. That's Cleveland Academy of Film Acting.
Admit it. You're the one who killed him. You seduced him, gained his confidence, and then when he wasn't looking, you reached into your purse and without conscience or remorse, you pulled out a gun and shot him. And cut. Curious? Visit theindygathering.com, a film festival, and so much more.
In today's world, there is an absolute need to know how to protect yourself. But who has the time or money for lengthy training sessions with techniques you may not remember in a time of need, or which can wind up putting you in even more danger? With Escape and Survive, you will learn effective, easy to remember techniques for getting out of dangerous situations. No complicated moves, no expensive, time-consuming training, just common sense self-defense. Book your seminar today at escapeandsurvive.com.
So, and then you cannot return sometimes, and it's really dramatic, you know. So I tend to be very anal because of my theater experience, I think, mainly. But I'm learning, you know, to let go and cutting off things, and all these things are cool because they end up on a DVD special thing, you know, and on your website.
They get to see all that.
Uh-huh.
Why did they cut
Not
that?
everybody
I see
says
why.
that when they should.
Yeah.
It happens.
The same thing for you. What about your
Um,
preparation in that regard?
You know, I mean, I started out doing special effects. That's I was trying to find a way to get into directing and get on the set, and you know, they just won't let you just show up and do it.
Well, let's make sure we differentiate. In today's world, there's a difference between special effects and visual effects. So which one of those two did you fall more into?
I lump it all together now, but I started out with regular practical effects, makeup effects, blowing stuff up.
Whereas visual effects
Yeah.
is a post-production and computer-based processing.
Right.
But you do both, but
I do both now. I mean, I've had to. I mean, I started out in practical effects, miniatures, makeup, blowing things up, and it got me onto the sets. And then once I was able to show up and I'd watch the director and see how people did things. But so I came out of that background. So when I moved into directing, which is what I always wanted to do, my first movie, it had a lot of special effects in it. It had a lot of sequences and miniatures and puppets and stuff. And I just had to have a shot list. But mainly for me was storyboards at that time because I needed to see how it was all going to play out. And I saw the movie in my head. So I would do a storyboard for every shot in the movie. But then when I looked at all these boards, I went, well, no, this is every cut. I mean, I was doing... Gee, I do this close-up 17 times on this piece of paper. Just because I'm going to cut back to it 17 times doesn't mean I need 17 panels. But for me, what was great when I did that for my first movie, I got all these things. I'm like, well, it's the whole movie. I can almost flip it.
you pre-visualize the whole movie.
Yeah, and then I sat down and went, wait a minute, this sequence, okay, I cut to the guy 7 times. Well, that's one shot. I'll just shoot it all the way through. So it was like a process of learning. So I still do that. I thumbnail almost every cut, like loosely now, not as fine detail. I detail the stuff that is, we used to do matte shots where we have to block off part of the frame and put the monster in or something. And so I do those detail, but mainly I just do a lot of loose storyboards and then I derive my shot list from it. And it's a necessity that I had to really get into because I moved into television stuff pretty early. And you're on it's a 7-day schedule and you're going to get a show done. And the producers go, what are you shooting today? These are your sequences. They want to know what you're doing because they don't want you to go out there and do those great crane moves, those crane moves and dolly moves that I was doing that take all day that I'm going to cut out because it's happened, So the producers would be shooting today, so I'd have to have a shot list. And it was great that it prepped me. I knew exactly how this thing was going to go together and how I felt it all was going to cut. And then when I got to the set and it started raining, I could throw it all away and make it up on the day. But I couldn't make it up if I never came prepared. There was a couple of times where I went, I'm going to wing it, I'm okay. And I showed up on the set and I'm like, what am I going to do? I was lost. So once I had a plan, I could throw it away. I felt comfortable to throw it away. But I still do
have that security blanket to throw away.
And I also learned to trust the crew, the actors, of like someone's going to come up with an idea that can get us out of this jam. And I learned early on to go, all right, well, once I bring everybody in and we have this fun environment going, there's going to be a lot of creative people putting stuff in. It's not all going to fit, but somebody might help this or that, and I want to be able to step back and be aware of it and grab those gems and claim them as my own, and give everybty credit along the way.
Not necessarily your own, but
But
the movies,
I
right?
put it together that way, so it's like, we could use that, that doesn't work. But at the end of the day, I shot list and I storyboard, and even the simplest stuff, dialogue scenes, and I still do it because I've got to have a plan, because, you know, you're on the set, time is money, you only got so much time, and, you know, here's the DP, here's what I'd like to do. He goes, hey, what if we try this? Great, as long as I can get it in an hour, you know, I'm easy to move that way. But I've learned that I do a lot of stuff now where I do it really, really loose, because I know it's a dialogue scene, and I know when I get the actors in that room or on that set, we will die if I push them into spots and pigeonhole them. So I want to get it in there and block it, and that's what you said about the rehearsals. Great. I'd love to have 6 weeks like some of those guys do. Sometimes I think they used to just like to hang out and let the studio pay for their lunch. But, it's great. I mean, when I've done rehearsals, it's been good. We've found script problems like from page 1 all the way down. Every time I've done a read-through with the cast just at a round table. But I find that, yeah, that prep really, really helps you, and at least you could close your eyes and you see the whole movie, you see the short, the film, whatever you're going to do in your head, and then you can start to deconstruct it as a director, because you've got to figure out, I've got this much time. Can I get it all in one shot? You know, and I've learned, you know, a oneer is a great thing. Takes time to set up, but man, you know, when the actors are in the moment, you don't want to stop them, you know, and I've learned to, like, I don't need to cut away to a close-up, so it's the side of his face, it still plays, he'll turn on this line. So I've learned to just work more with the actors and kind of go somewhat loose, but then be aware, okay, I got to get that camera over there and that camera over there at some point to get that one. And so now while I'm blocking, even though I have a plan, I get my AD aside and the DP, and if I have a script supervisor, if we're lucky sometimes to have that, I'll have him stand next to me and we'll be rehearsing and blocking, and as the actors are going through, I'll go, close up, his close up over there. Hers is, you know, for that line, she gets that over there. And then we just take a couple of quick notes, and I give the AD, it's like, we got time? Okay, get rid of that one, we'll get that over there. And then we go to work, because I've learned it's like, it's that pressure time on the set. And then when I get to the edit, I've got, you know, the freedom to, like, spend time on something or not. So prep is, it's everything. If you don't prep, I mean, I don't know anybody that can go out there and really do it. I've seen some directors do it, and I've been on a few sets as an effects guy, and but I don't have the luxury of, you know, 9 cameras,
Yeah.
3 setups for the whole day, you know, $1 million setups. You know, they can do it on some of those movies, you know, with 200 days of shooting, but we don't get that. So I think it's lazy if you don't do it. I think if you don't go out there with that point of view, you're going to get lost, and people are going to catch you.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, what are we doing here, Gary? Or, you know, why would I be saying that? Why am I sitting? Well, you're sitting because, you know, yeah, you don't need to sit. Hey, maybe we can get this done quicker. You know, maybe there's an efficient way, and we won't cut 20 minutes out of your movie, you know? So.
Yeah, I would agree. I would absolutely have a shot list. One reason just being because you don't want to forget anything, even if you have it in your head. You just don't want to be walking off the set going, wait a minute, aren't we going to get a, and everyone freaks out. I often do that shot list with the DP, who collaborate. We talk through what we can do. To be as prepared as possible for when you're shooting, because as he says, when you're shooting, it's time and money. It's really a finite thing there. You only have so much time, you only have so much money to do it, and you want to be prepared. It's like going to battle. You want to be prepared, because if you're not, you're going to die in battle, you know. Now, if the DP suddenly goes, what if, I know we talked about this, but what if this? I'm open to it.
Are you a filmmaker looking for the location of your next project? Contact the North Coast Film Commission. With small cities throughout Ohio, we're here to help with your film, television, and commercial productions. With low to no cost permits and locations, we'll help stretch your budget. From our production resources to our talent database, we will show you just what the North Coast has to offer. Visit northcoastfilmcommission.com today.
Are you too busy to find that special someone? Would you like to make $2,000 or more per month in your sleep? Do you have bad credit, no credit? Are you full of good ideas? Have you dreamed of being in real estate? If you answered yes, no, or maybe to all or none of these questions, run, don't walk your browser to sunnyboo.com. That's right, sunnyboo.com, sunnyboo.com, sunnyboo.com. Apply directly to the forehead, eyes, and uvula. That's SONNYBOO.com. Short films for free online.
I mean, and if you know the story, that's another thing. If you know what the characters are and what the story you're trying to tell is, you can know whether that's just a flashy shot that we don't need, or that's going to illuminate the character in a great way, and what a great idea, and let's do it, and I think we have the time. And make sure that you have the time for the big moments in the movie, the big story moments, and don't waste time shooting the cutaway of the clock on the wall. Don't spend hours doing that. It's not that important. The other thing is, a lot of times when you're rehearsing or when you're shot listing or whatever, storyboarding, you don't have the luxury of being actually on the location that you shot, or you are shooting. And so you get there and you go, okay, well, we rehearsed this in a room, but this room is way different and the dynamics are very different. So let's run it a few times, and the characters are there, but the way you shoot it might suddenly transform. And you need to be open to that. I like to really look at what's happening in front of me and then go, great, I think this is going to work the way I've got it shot listed. If I go, you know what, I thought we could do this as a two-shot, but we're going to have to go in for some close-up coverage because it's not playing to me. And then the crew goes, all right, he's adding 2 more shots. We'll be here for... if it's the other way around, though, if you see the 2-shot and go, oh my God, that's beautiful, we don't need the close-up coverage. It says everything right there. And they go, all right, he dumps 2 shots. We're getting lunch early. So it's great to have as much as you can when you go in, and then be prepared to throw it away if you need to. Be open to suggestions. I mean, ultimately it's your call, but whether it's an actor going, what if I do this, or a DP saying, I had this idea, be open to it. Could be great.
It's the last thing I'll ask.
Now, did you do?
No, I generally do shot lists and storyboard extensively. Depending if I have a storyboard artist, I'll abuse them to death until their fingers are bleeding.
Do you do your thumb?
Which currently I have an intern doing that, and I will make him suffer for the rest of the summer. I've got 3 more weeks. I want to see his fingers bleed doing storyboards. But yeah, I do shot lists, but in the same vein as I'm ready to toss it away, and more importantly, I mean, for most directors, it's 50% what appears on camera and the camera stuff, and 50% actors. I'm more like 75-25. I want to be more with the actors, and I want to collaborate more with the DP. So that shot list is very flexible. I like working with cinematographers that have story interest in mind, that are going to sit there and say, they don't want to do a cool shot. They're like, I think we should be looking down on him at this point because he did something bad. We want to sell the idea that he's guilty. And I want a cinematographer that understands that storytelling and will enhance what I already have in mind.
With the camera.
Because to me, that's where, in this world of DSLRs and short filmmakers, I mean, I don't mean to plug my show so often, but I have this saying that filmmaking is the new garage band. Because the way in the early 90s, everybody could buy a $100 Korean-made guitar, right now everybody can edit video, everybody can make a short film, but not everybody can make a good short film.
Yeah.
So part of that is most people are writer-producers that think they're writer-directors. So to me, learning the craft and artistry of directing is not just working with actors, but using the camera to tell a story is an essential piece that I've been doing this 13 years, and only in the last 3 to 4 years have I even begun to learn that part of the job of directing. So part of that is planning, but keeping in mind with shot list is story, story, story. How am I using the camera to enhance the story at every shot?
Right.
But the last question I'll ask before we open it up to everybody else would be is, What is your collaboration like with your editor? Do you edit your own stuff? Do you work with an editor? And if you work with an editor, is this person a monkey pressing buttons, or are they a key collaborator?
That's a good question, because my first collaboration when I did my series was a nightmare. The editor refused to have me sitting in the room. And I was like, look, it's my series. I want to have it work, you know. And it ended up with a fight. I had 4 episodes totally cut. I didn't like it. You know, I said, no, it's not. So I found a new one that became my DP on all the projects I've done since. So now we're on set shooting whatever it is we're shooting. It's always, we are talking in editing terms now.
Shooting for the edit.
Yeah, because we both worked on the list. I know what the mood of the movie should be. I know what I want from the start, so I explained that to him way ahead. And then once we both understand, now we edit sitting together. And he is the geek, definitely. The guy worked for Intel for like, you know, a long time. So he talks things I'm like, I don't know what you just said, but yeah, I trust you, you know. But I feel more artistic
Collaboration.
but output, because I'm going to say, see, this doesn't work because of that, and then he'll know how to fix it faster than I will have to think about, you know. I suggest any director to sit with an editor once at least, because that will change everything. Where in your mind you thought that take would work like unbelievable, then you're sitting and you're like, that's what it looks like? You know, I mean, I trim my scenes so much now, and he's even shocked. He's like, really? I'm like, oh yeah, I just cut them, you know. But it's a good lesson, I feel. But you have to be open-minded, and you have to also respect his vision as an editor. If he's a professional editor, you've got to trust your editor. If you don't trust him, just change him, you know, or her. I feel the editor should be able to bring something. There are great people who saved movies because of their editing. I've seen bad actors look unbelievable.
If you saw the last panel, we talked about January Jones, who I would still like to go out with if she's ever going to see this tape.
Send her the link.
I hope she never sees what I'm saying about her.
But you said they improved her performance through editing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, for you, do you edit your own movies, or do you have a separate editor?
No, I mean, I would. I'm not really interested in hiring just someone to kind of push the buttons or do what I tell them to do, because I can do that myself, and I've done a little bit of editing on some of my movies, but only I like take a sequence if I'm working on it and go, this is really special. I shot it a certain way, and I really want to get that emotion or that effect out of it or that scare out of it. And I kind of know how to do it, and I can't explain it to the other, but I've worked with a lot of different editors over the years, and I found like I'm always looking for that one, like that DP. I would love to just have the same DP, the same editor, the same costume, the same, you know. I would love that crew, because to me it's like that film camp, you know, that clubhouse. We're all on the same
Surrogate
page.
family.
I mean, I've been saved so many times in the edit room on stuff where I've had like disasters on the set, barely got the footage, and then I literally have just like, okay, we're screwed here. I mean, the actors hated the sequence. You know, it's pouring rain, mud, water. You know, middle of the night. You know, in India, and everybody hates it. And I'm screwed. I have to shoot this sequence. So I just put 2 cameras, and I just said, you guys go where you want to go, and we just shot fish in a barrel. And I'm like, close up, just get something. And I just had to get the sequence, and I told the editor, I go, we're screwed here. And so she looked at all the stuff, and when I got an idea, and she kind of put it together, and it's like the best scene in the film. So I always find like you want the other one that's the filmmaker as your editor. You can certainly do it yourself, but I'll be real brief. When I did my first movie, I spent years trying to put it together, and I finally got it together, and we shot it, and I lived with it day and night for like 2.5 years, never left it. And I was in there with my editors, no, do this, do that, and 2 years straight, the first movie. Then I had a 2-week break where I didn't look at the movie, didn't think about it, came out to LA and screened it, sat in a screening room with a bunch of distributors, and I could have died. It was as flat as a pancake because I had no distance.
This August, come to the film festival where East meets West.
It's an incredible showcase of over 75 films from around the world.
And it's more than just a film festival.
It's a place where filmmakers can gather together with the audience
for one amazing weekend
to celebrate the power,
the drama,
the joy,
the magic of independent film.
The Indie Gathering International Film Festival.
It's so much more than you ever imagined.
Cleveland Academy for Self-Defense is Northeast Ohio's premier martial arts school. Located on Cleveland's near west side, we teach several martial arts disciplines specializing in Taekwondo and Hapkido. As taught by Master Ray Such, students of Cleveland Academy learn discipline, formal martial arts training, and real-world self-defense techniques. Classes are available for children and adults. Cleveland Academy for Self-Defense, the home of champions.
And I leaned on the editor and everybody to do exactly what I wanted. So I learned a big lesson, which was that extra voice really will help you. Select the takes you like. Make sure that the editor knows what you are going for. If you have shot lists or storyboards, you give it to them. But I always let the editor go first. I don't go in there and say, do this and this. I go, look at it and put it together. This is what I'm going for. 9 times out of 10, they've nailed it or made it better or got exactly what I wanted. And I'm a genius. No, it's like, hey, it worked. He saw it, she saw it, and they put it together. But I work closely with them, and I'm always like, can I get the same editor back again? A lot of times they're on to another show or something because, you know, we don't do a project all the time. And so that's tough. But I have like 2 or 3 people that I like to try to use all the time. Whenever I can, I'll bring them in. The same with the DPs. I have, you know, a couple of great DPs I worked with, and whenever I can get them, I'll get them. But I want to work closely with those people. They're your, you know, they're your right arm, really. And they can really, really help you shape the material. Once you know what you want to do and say, I want to go like this with it. I want to make everything blue and it's fun. And you know, and they're going, okay, well, let me try this. And then I also get to step away and go, I got to go take care of business. And then I'll go eat lunch or I'll go to dinner. And there it says, yeah, come back in 3 hours. And I call them up, okay, I'll come back in another hour. And let them work their magic, you know, and they do. So I was like, you got to find that. That's like the closest people to you. And that's why Spielberg uses the same editor.
Michael Kahn.
He just knows. I mean, the second hand is, he probably says 2 words to him, walks in the edit room and goes, great, maybe you could, hey, you know, I had that great shot, that great camera move. It doesn't fit, Steve.
Michael Kahn has
there's
edited,
a piece of it.
Michael Kahn's edited every single Spielberg movie except for 2. Jaws and E.T. And the reason he didn't do E.T. is because he was producing Poltergeist and wanted his key people on Poltergeist while he's like, I can tell another editor what I want on E.T. I need you over there while I'm not there because you know how I think.
Right.
So
Michael, it's very important to me. It's like you
and the other thing is he wouldn't work with the same DP twice up until Schindler's List because everybody in Hollywood was crediting Spielberg's success on his collaborators. But since 1991, he's had the same crew, that core group, he's got 5 or 6 writers every time. He's got the same production designers, same DP, same crew, same ADs, every movie from 91 to now.
It works. I mean, if you find those
find that key group,
find that group, you kind of stick with them, you know, as much as you can, bring along. And I had a horrible experience on one movie with an editor that, you know, I thought was going to be the greatest, and it was the most experienced editor I've ever worked with, and I wouldn't work with him again. You know, and it happens. You just don't click, you know. Everybody has a different agenda. And so you got to really find that one you'll work with.
I would jump in and say I don't need a button pusher. I actually used to be an editor before I got into producing and directing, and so I know tricks that will make things work, but I want a second set of eyes on it. And you know, someone said that your final edit is your last rewrite of the script. You think about that. If you made a transcript of that final edit, that's a different screenplay than you set out shooting. And I also like let the guy go first, do your first cut without even me there. Then I come in and I will work for hours just sort of saying, okay, why did you use take 2? Show me take 3. Show me take 1. Okay, I see why you used take 2, whatever. And what I really like is when we know something doesn't work, or I think something doesn't work, or I grow to hate something in it, and I can't quite figure it out, and I go away and I come back and the guy says, let me show you this. And he shows me a recut of the scene, and I'm like, what did you do that fixed it? You know, you're my bad, you know, dinner is on me, whatever. So it's a really important process, and it's great to get that. I heard you saying you like to fight. I like to fight too, but it says no, you can't have that scene here. We don't need to know that for 2 scenes later. But they gotta know it because, you know, and having that argument is a great argument to have with an editor. Also, just to jump back to directing, I want to just throw out, as a professor, I see student directors. There's 2 things they always don't do, and one is respond to the actors. That's part of your job. So when you're on set and you do a take and the actor is there and the tear spills out and you're going, cut, and then they turn and they talk to their VP or their crew or their gaffer, and the poor actor standing out there like,
wounded.
Was I okay? Does he hate me? And you don't want the rest of the crew talking to the actor like going, hey, you know, the gaffer, next time do it like that. You don't want other people directing the actor. But you have to be there for the actor, and I think a lot of times young directors are intimidated by actors, or afraid that
or
they
disinterested.
They don't know that. Yeah, I had one guy say, oh, I love everything about directing except the acting part. And I was like, well, maybe that's not the best career for you.
Yeah, in my first feature, I had a similar thing to where I had, you know, a large group of actors, but between these 2 actors, I would yell across the room to the one guy who was this big, burly guy, I'd be like, that was great, do that again next time. And the other guy would walk up and I'd whisper, like, next take, dude. And he's always sitting there going,
guys.
They were standing next to each other, but I treated them entirely differently as a director. And it reached the point where I was always saying to the one actor I'd whisper to after a take was good, I was like, that was good. And then it reached a point where I didn't realize it was becoming a joke to them, because then the other 3 guys in the scene were going, did I do okay? Because they were like very curious about that, because I was always telling the one guy because he needed it. The other 3 didn't seem like he needed it, but they felt like siblings. They got jealous for the attention.
Yeah.
So
you have to find what each
one needs.
Absolutely.
And you can't just yell.
You can't just
You
yell.
can't
And I
direct
think
every
it's
actor the
important
same
to
way.
remember that actors, yes, we are arrogant, that's our job, but we are also the most vulnerable people. We need to be patted constantly, saying, yeah, great, but you know, let's try something different.
Because especially if they have a theater background, they want that trust with the director.
Absolutely, and there's also the flow that is cut constantly. In theater, you know you start and you end at the end.
But
in
for
cinema,
film,
you are required to do the same thing over and over and over, and so
and in tiny bits at a time.
yeah. And when you hear, okay, let's do it again, you think,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we are terrible. I mean, the things that go on in our head, and it doesn't matter how the level of acting you are. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter. You're an actor. You are vulnerable. You know,
The
so-
director should be looking out for the director.
Yeah.
So that's what's one.
Yeah, because the greatest direction I've ever given is like, let's do it again, but this time don't suck. Action. You know? I don't know a single actor that would like that as a direction. You know?
Well, unless they felt like you were right. I mean, no, because sometimes, you know, you as an actor, you should know if you did a good job or not. You know?
And you know, you direct actors differently, as he said. So sometimes an actor will, you say cut, and you go, we're going to go again, and the actor, you're about to give them a direction, and they'd be like, I got it. I know what I did wrong. All right, fine. Others, you know, want a lot of hand holding. Okay, so it would, you know, how long with these 2 begin? Whatever you, and that's fine. Whatever they need, you want to give them. The other thing I was going to say that students do is rush into production too quickly.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have potentially months of pre-production and potentially months of post-production, but you only got a week or 2 weeks or a day on the set. So they just want to get it onto the set. Let's start shooting. You know, like I love being on the set. I love shooting. Like, yeah, but your script sucks. You have no ending.
I want to get to the premiere.
Yeah.
I want the drink. I want the drink at the premiere.
Yeah, exactly.
And the award. Exactly.
And I won the IMDb credit.
So let's go ahead and open it up to any questions. Anybody have any questions?
You two have disrupted my classroom for the last time.
What are you gonna do about it? Spank us?
She can't spank us. It's against the law.
Spanking would be too easy. I want to cause more permanent damage.
And cut! Curious? Visit theindygathering.com, a film festival, and so much more.
In today's world, there is an absolute need to know how to protect yourself. But who has the time or money for lengthy training sessions with techniques you may not remember in a time of need, or which can wind up putting you in even more danger? With Escape and Survive, you will learn effective, easy-to-remember techniques for getting out of dangerous situations. No complicated moves, no expensive, time-consuming training, just common sense self-defense. Book your seminar today at escapeandsurvive.com.
I come at this from the writer-producer angle rather than a director. So here's my question for you guys. What do you look for in your relationship with your screenwriter? I've worked with the same director quite a few times, and so we've developed a terrific rapport, and hopefully she's going to direct my next feature also. But I'd love to hear from some other people as to what you look for in terms of the give and take with your screenwriter.
I'm not a screenwriter, so most of the films I've done, I've worked with a screenwriter. I know a lot of guys are writer-directors. And I have been really fortunate that they're really open. I would just say I've never felt like we've gotten in arguments or they bristled at any suggestion for a change. Sometimes they know, well, that's not going to work, but I'll rewrite it that way, and you can see it won't work, you know. But they've just not been defensive at all. They love making movies. They love the collaborative process. So that's what I think has been best for me. And I know that's not always the case. Sometimes writers get a little. They're dander up if you...
We get a little pissy sometimes, yeah.
I know in my experience I co-produced a bunch of movies, and in the first place, if I chose to do that, it's because I like the person. So, and I like their work. So I read the script, and if I see there is something that really doesn't work for me, I will bring it to the table and see what we can come up with. And I just need to know that if I'm going to direct or produce or whatever it is that I'm going to do a movie, I want to know why everything exists. I want to make sure that that explosion at the beginning of the film is not just for production value. It has to have a sense in the story. You know what I mean?
I've done that a couple.
I know, I've done that too, trust me. You open the movie with something amazing, but it has nothing to do with the movie, you know.
Unfortunately, the very thing I just made a joke about of how I would never say to an actor, do it again but don't suck. That's exactly how brutal I am with every writer I've worked with, which is they'll pitch me and I'll be like, no, that sucks, what else you got? They're like, what? I was like, no, next, come on, let's keep going. And they're like, what about the first idea? I go, it sucked, next idea, like give me another joke, keep trying. And to me it's more like, you know, especially when dealing with comedy, it's like script writing is more like, no, that sucks, what else? You know, it's like, no, I don't like it, what else? Or it's like the same thing with any kind of idea. It's like, no, I hate that motivation. They shouldn't be in the room for that. What else you got? And it's like they think that I'm, pardon my French, they think I'm shitting on them when I'm like, no, I'm shitting on your shitty idea. Give me a good one. Let's go with your good idea. I'm not saying you're stupid. I think the idea is stupid. Let's keep going. And I was like, before you think I think you're stupid, I don't even have an idea. So, I mean, that's the part they're not getting. So, unfortunately, I'm really brutal in the writing process because I'm just as brutal with my own ideas as I am anybody else's. But it's really hard for writers, especially since writing is a very singular process, but film was a very collaborative thing. And as a director, and in some cases a co-writer, it's like, no, I want the good ideas. I want to find an idea that fits the story. I'm looking for the best idea, not just an idea. And writers are so insular, they just write on their own, they're in a cocoon, and then they become very sensitive. They're not used to this idea of having ideas shot down like a machine gun. So for me, the writing process, very brutal. And relationship with writers have equally been brutal, but I like the writers that can take it and keep spitting out ideas. That they understand it's not about ego, it's not about my arrogance as much as it is, which is formidable, I might add. But it's not about that, it's about finding the best idea for the movie.
And I mean, I've co-written some of my movies, but what I always found is when I was handed a script for this film I was going to do, first thing I do is like, I meet the writer, and I get we have an understanding. Look, I'm directing this, you wrote this, now you know what's going to happen. Things you're going to think are great, you're going to think things they're doing are not great. You know, so we get on the same page. We understand that what we're doing in the process is making the movie from this. And I always say, look, do you want to direct this? If you want this to be 100% of what you wrote, you need to go do this. I have no problem with that. But since we're going into this venture this way, here's what I like and here's what I don't think works. And again, I always tell them, I'm sitting in the theater watching this, and when I'm telling you what I like, I'm already sitting in the theater watching it and what doesn't work for me. And I'm like, and if I've seen it before or heard it before, it better be something really, really, really cool and necessary because I want to throw it out. You know, I kind of don't want to do the same thing. So, and I also like, with the writers, I like, getting in early, and it's like, I've had the good fortune on a couple projects where we got to completely rewrite the crappy script that the writer wrote, but he wrote because the producers wanted all this stuff in there, and he wrote 3 movies into one, and we got to actually sit down for 6 weeks and write the movie we eventually made. And it was a great process, the back and forth, but the one thing I always say too is, I always want the actor to come onto the set. And the producers go, you don't want the actor or the director on the set. I go, no, I want the writer. You don't want the writer, and I always want the writer there because I've had too many times where the scene played great in the script, and when we read it, it was great. But what we didn't think about, well, wait a minute, you're knee-high in the muddy water in a swamp, and there's 10 people standing there talking. How do you shoot that? What do you do? And we got into this huge problem on many things, and the writers weren't there. And I died, and I'm like, so now I'm rewriting it with the actors in the middle of the scene. So I always want to have the writer there so they can see, like, and they sense too. I found mostly when they see the actors and hear the actors say that stuff, they can tell if it's working. And when it doesn't work, it's really obvious, and then they're right there to add an extra line. And to me, that's the same collaborators like an editor. It's like, to me, the writer is very important. And as long as we have that understanding what's going to happen, it works out great for me. So, and I always find, like, even if I have something that I've started to write that I want to do, I get to a certain point and I go, okay, now who can I drag into this mess? Because, not that I'm lazy, but I can't sit here and keep doing it. I got to move around. I got to do other things. So I try to figure out who am I going to drag into this to be the writer, to write this with me, so I can go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we do this and this, but I don't know how we got there, but I see this sequence, and how can we keep this person alive? They should be dead. And maybe they can come up with it, and put the twists and turns in it. So, and again, I like that. I mean, to me, film is like, again, it's that film camp. You get a group of
collaboration.
People. It is. I can't sit in a room by myself for too long before I got to drag other people along.